Good morning, everybody. John Sfiocla here from GAI Insights, giving you the important, optional, or essential news in generative AI today. We have a elite crew of the three of us, and Ankash is not with us today, so I will be managing the articles as well. And we have very interesting everything from some fun case studies through some new science around long retrieval and long reading in terms of improving one shot and many shot retrieval of information from complex documents. So here we go. Let's get into it. Let me go ahead and open up the first one here, which is OpenAI is buying a remote collaboration platform. So let me go ahead and present this, share my screen. All right. Can folks see that? I hope. And so here we have OpenAI is buying another company called Rockset. It's looked at as an acqui-hire here. OpenAI has not been buying many firms and so forth, but in this case, they are in fact buying it. So, Paul, I was wondering, what do you think about this one?
I think for the AI leader, this is optional, although I think the trend is notable because we continue this. Look how fast this has developed. I mean, these guys have gone from like 0 to 3.5 billion revenue in a year and a half. I don't know, it's 80, $100 billion market cap. And they're starting to use that to acqui-hire, which is, I think, really critical for any AI vendor strategy. But for the AI leader, this is optional.
All righty. Adam, optional, important, essential?
Yeah, optional. I'm actually I just played out the end game here a little further. They talked about like, oh, are you going to be able to do like video collaboration on your chat GPT? Because they're buying this company that was like a Zoom sort of competitor, but you could have 10 people all collaborating at once sort of thing. And I'm like, no. This is about the agents being able to see what other agents are doing. Like that's where I went immediately with this, which is really interesting. And it sort of paints a bit of a roadmap of where they're going with some of this stuff. You know, we're going to have this on our computer and it's going to be able to see what we can do, but we're going to be able to control other computers remotely with vision is sort of what I see coming out of this. Super interesting stuff, but optional news is just another acquisition at this point.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, when you look at self-organizing systems, people like John Holland with the book Emergence and so forth. So natural systems like these, like how they work, a lot of times the intelligence is very much at the end, and then organization goes in from that. So you think about like how your proteins get expressed, in your body and so forth. It's very, very decentralized with a particular pattern. And if we start, the beauty of these large language models is, the ability to, as you say, okay, we'll look at something with video and then we do interpretation. So all that hard work of having the standard, in the past, we thought about standardizing it from the center, bureaucracies and so forth. Now we can sample what it is and then begin to organize it. And, that adds a lot. Ankash, good to have you here. I am incompetently trying to do your work. So if you're ready to go, that's great. We're on to the second article. If you're not,
we're actually on the first article because you started with the second.
Oh, sorry. So we have to go.
We need to back up to the Oracle article.
Oh yes, sorry.
That's all right. I just don't want to say.
Ankash, are you good to go, or should I go ahead and do the first article?
Yes, John. I'm good to go.
All righty.
Sharing my screen, just waiting for it to come up.
All right. We missed you. Okay. Obviously, I started on the second article, and we're lost without you. All right.
Adam, John's a much better chalk person than a producer.
This is true. Okay. AI powered. Go ahead, Ankash. Introduce it, please.
Yeah. So the first one that we have for today comes from Oracle. So Oracle has launched an AI-powered clinical digital assistant, which helps in interactions between practitioners and patients.
All right. Thank you for that. And I gave this one to myself. The reason I gave it to myself was I was actually on a board of a company called Clinical Information Advantage Incorporated, which started in about 1990, and I joined the board in the early 90s. And this was our goal right here. It was started by a guy named Steve Kahan, who was both a doctor and a master's in computer science, and had this vision many years ago. But here we have it. I've rated it as optional. It's a nice case study. It's a PR, it literally comes from the PR department of Oracle. But they claim unbelievable productivity, 20 to 40% in documentation time. You can keep very important, keep eye contact with the patient because you can just talk to the assistant and so forth. So here we are, we've reinvented with robots now what used to be the nurse assistant who would come with the doctor in during the appointment, who has been expunged for cost reasons and is now back as a robot. So I think very interesting application. I rate it as optional, but worthwhile. What do you guys think? Paul, Adam?
Yeah, definitely optional. And, what took you so long, but optional.
All right, optional. All right, optional it is. On Kaj, we have the number 2 article, which I started with, is also optional on OpenAI's acquisition. So we go to article number 3, please.
Okay. So this article comes from MIT Tech Review, and it talks about how generative AI could reinvent what it means to play video games. So it talks about AI-powered non-playing characters in video games.
And I love the author's name, Niall Firth. I mean, there's a particular ring of authority to it just from that alone, doesn't it? Should be Sir Niall Firth or whatever. So, Adam, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I would consider this one optional. It's where we're going is interesting, and this article itself didn't really bring anything new to the table. It mostly seemed to talk about AI-powered NPCs, which isn't really a new concept. They're certainly getting more sophisticated. They're getting more intelligent per se. But it was I think well over a year now that Stanford did their experiment with the virtual world, where they had all of the agents interacting with each other, and they organized a birthday party for one of them. And I didn't really see this article bringing anything new to the table with regards to that. So I considered it optional. It also didn't get much into the I guess the synthetic world and the virtual side of things. It mostly just talked about having these NPCs actually be plugged into large language models, which isn't really very much new for me.
And for those of you who don't know, non-player characters.
Non-player characters.
Yes. All right, Paul, what do you think? Important, optional, essential?
Yeah, I think this is like a lot of ones we see. It's a really important trend, but this particular article doesn't highlight the trend enough. So I had it as optional. I do think I think it's really important though for the AI leader to understand where the tip of the spear is on innovation adoption. So we talked last night about the Learning Lab about threat detection as being one of the early areas for deployment of AI agents. Yes. And I think if you want to kind of see where characters in virtual world, and you can really think, Adam, what's this going to look like when those characters are, one name's Pepsi, one name's Coke, and they're organizing a party, have to decide what brand. So this is yet another area that is a little different than that metaverse, but it's another major trend on how brands in particular are going to get displayed and influenced, and that needs to be monitored.
Yeah, let me make the case for important. First of all, again, here's an article that wasn't written by a robot because it's not that well written. no self-respecting robot would write something this kind of circular and a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, good news, human in the loop. The thing that what I found useful about it was a naive person, because this person just got into video gaming last year, right? A naive person describing how they were thinking about it. And the reason I thought is that there's a friend of mine, Larry Smarr. Larry built the first high-speed backbone to the internet and so forth. And talking to Larry, what he used his labs for, it was the lab that Inderzine did Mosaic in, is Larry said, look, I look out 10 years and I raise research money to try to build the environment that's going to be here 10 years from now. And I would just say, if you're doing anything in marketing, customer service, and so forth, I think you need to be looking at gaming as just to get yourself used to, okay, what's this environment going to be like? And I think, Zuckerberg was right and wrong with metaverse. I mean, I think he jumped too far ahead. And the big thing I think he missed was storytelling. That at the core, I think, of the metaverse is storytelling. And that's what this article does highlight a lot, is character and storytelling. What does that all look like? Adam, as you said, from a very naive kind of standpoint. But I think storytelling is the carrier wave of the new interaction, and that it's not, so you don't start with metaverse, you start with robot stories and agents and that kind of stuff. More the places that you've gone, Adam, in terms of, when I look at the work you're doing. Anyway, so I'm going to make a call for important, but this particular thing is going to go down as a democracy, as much as that pains me. So what do you guys think? We going optional? We going important?
Adam, I think he's just doing that so I don't have a snide remark about the chalk. But
you can snide away, baby.
I remain unconvinced. Yes, storytelling is going to be really important. I didn't think this article.
All right, optional it is. So we got 3 optionals so far.
It was from MIT, and it's a really long article.
And it's poorly written, and it doesn't deal with any of the, as you say, the environments or any of the other sophisticated stuff that's there. And they're a year behind Stanford. Other than that, okay, optional it is. Next, Ankash.
So, Adam, you're a witness. This is the first time I think a chalk didn't win.
Well, fortunately, these are recorded, Paul.
That's right.
Death, taxes, and AI. I just sent this off to my PwC buddies, actually, from our friends at Andersine Horowitz. Once again, they're out with thinking about what's going on with the future of professional services. Adam, I think you marked this baby optional on the way in. You still optional?
Yeah, I think so. I saw you, I believe, gave it an importance, so I'm curious as to why. I didn't find much new in there, I guess I could say again. Yes.
Paul, what do you think? You're talking, but you ain't being heard. You're muted.
There we go. Muting, not moving fast enough. I think one thing that is on the important side is that I think industries that are in the crucible, and professional services is one of them, is also another leading indicator for other companies to watch. So I think just as they need to watch the agents on the threat detection side and some of the video thing, this is a third area. If they're not in a crucible industry and you're the next industry over, we call holding a lever. This is one to watch to make sure you understand what's coming here. So I can support important.
Important. All right. Well, it's interesting because, I was at PwC and we looked at this a lot. And about 25 years ago, there was a guy creating an AI workbench in accounting and so forth. And, he was ahead of, I think, the issue. In addition, there's a guy by the name of Vin Coleman who did a very extensive analysis of time used in dealing with accounts. And what was fascinating was that he estimated a third was in front of the client and interactions and so forth. And then another third was really about coordination of getting the data. So if you look at, asking the client for such and such data and they don't give it to you in time and so forth. So for complex accounts, this does not deal at all with client management, which, according to Vin's analysis, which was pretty rigorous, was about 2/3 of the hours. Having said that, I do think that there's tremendous productivity capability, and I think the big firms know it. And what I liked about this, and the reason I thought it was important, is that they had a nice list of different parts. They didn't do a bad job. They don't understand account management, the Andersine folks, but they didn't do a bad job of breaking out the different steps in accounting. And I was also thinking about the article you just did, Paul, about, end of billable hours, ? With the, the blog post you just did for lawyers. So I was going to give this important, not so much as new ground, but not a bad, compendium. Again, it's not essential, not a bad compendium of stuff they're investing in, and, how the VCs are thinking about it, because I think they're going to be the ones driving the productivity increase.
Well, and I think the point on that is that it's very similar. Yeah. So that article I asserted that you might see 50% of lawyers' billable hours go down in 4 years. That's certainly got a lot of people discussing and chirping here. But one of the things that I ask is, if you had something you paid 10 grand for before GenAI, and you're doing the same task again this year, and the vendor's still charging you 10 grand, there's something wrong. And John, I'm thinking of large audits. My large annual audit, and it was, $50,000 or $300,000 last year. Tell me why it's exactly the same price this year.
Oh yeah. No, I've been on a bunch of boards, and that would, that's exactly the questions being asked, right? Okay, $2 million last year, it's going to be $1.8 million this year, right? Or $1.6 million.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. No. All right. So we're going to give it an important. All right. Ankaj, next, please.
Okay, the next and the last one is a research paper which talks about how we can enhance retrieval augmented generation with long context LLMs.
Yeah. And also, I gave this to myself. On this one, I was about to give it an important or even maybe an essential because of the performance improvements are tremendous in this thing. However, I started in on the research paper, and I'm not sure that this methodology works when you get past if it doesn't have hyperlinks in the documents underneath. The corpus that they looked at was Wikipedia, and the way they sort relevance is density of hyperlinks among documents. And there's tons of documents that don't have hyperlinks in them. In fact, much of the unstructured data inside corporations and so forth doesn't have hyperlinks in it. So I think that put it back down to where you were, Adam, in terms of optional on this thing. I think it's an interesting area. I think it's also interesting that we have 3 Chinese nationals that are at Waterloo publishing this stuff and so forth. From a geopolitical standpoint, a lot of these technique papers that we've been reviewing are from Chinese nationals, often in Canada. Not to, go all, conspiracy theory on us, but, I think the Chinese are making a very concerted effort to be neck and neck and try to lead in this vitally important area of productivity and military intelligence. So I would give this an optional. If it had been built on a different corpus, I would have, or can prove out on a different corpus, I would give it at least an important. Anyway, that's where I landed. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's a good insight, John. I didn't get that deep into it to understand about the links. The performance was significant. Just for a little context. So basically, what they're saying is normally the way these retrievers work is they'd split something like a Wikipedia into 100-word paragraphs, and they split it into like 4,000 token units, so 30 times longer.
Right.
So they have many, many fewer. Like instead of being broken into 22 million chunks, Wikipedia is only 700,000 chunks. And I just don't understand what the trade-off is. Like, they're saying that with the small chunks, the 100-word paragraphs, it's finding the needle in the haystack. But what's the trade-off? What are they losing by having these larger chunks? I just couldn't quite understand like where if you go from 100 words to 4,000 tokens, you have to lose something in that because you don't have the same precision. And it seemed like I couldn't quite tell where they didn't seem to emphasize what the trade-off was. And it still seemed sort of theoretical. So it was a wait and see kind of thing for me.
Yeah, that's my belief is, and I haven't read it carefully enough to be certain of this, but I believe what's going on is they're putting the weight of the concern on the reader, and the reader looks for importance by hyperlink. So that's why I thought that
it works.
That the importance of the documents had a lot to do with their interconnection. So to me, I thought of it as a little Google inside a reader, if you will. You know what I mean? That's how they were picking up the performance. That's why I'd love to see this in a corpus that does not have hyperlinks in it, because that's where you may see the fall off, Adam. That was my understanding of what the support was that gave us new information to have the performance be so high. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just even the fact that how much time we just spent today discussing on it, trying to understand it, makes it optional for the time-starved AI leader, but certainly an important trend on the research side.
Remember, only when things are difficult do you learn. So
true, and we just gave him a long article, but optional.
We all need push-ups for the mind. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, all right, but we're gonna give this optional. You don't have to do these push-ups. Ankaj, all right, here we go. So we have a relatively light day. Optional, important, optional. All right, and it's all about changing economics and professional services. Again, the message here is not total substitution automation. It's power tools for knowledge work. Would you hire a carpenter without a drill? an electric drill? The answer is no. Will you hire an accountant? Without generative AI and AI, you shouldn't. So there we have it. All right. That's it for our news review. Any announcements, Paul or Adam?
Yeah, I mean, Adam, we had a fantastic learning lab last night, and Adam's done a great job of getting 2 key videos posted on that. One was 5 minutes with our Dr. John here talking about own your own intelligence, which is some really interesting frameworks to think about, particularly for strategic deployments of GenAI. And second, we had a presentation on the AI, the basics of AI agents. What does agentic systems really look like, and started learning down that learning curve. So I encourage readers to go look both of them. You can find them on our YouTube channel.
Excellent. Adam, anything else to add? All right. Another day in cyberspace. May your robots be friendly. See you tomorrow.